Well, as many of you who know me and the work that I do, I love diving in deep into conversations with people, not just about their expertise, but about the stories, the origin stories that brought them to us in their present state and the offerings and solutions that are helping to move all of us in different areas of our lives. And number one in that is education. And that's probably the parent hat that I have on as I say this to you. But I want to welcome into the conversation Kieran Koditala. He's the CEO of End-to-End and Lightleap AI, and Laura Ipsen. She's a president and CEO of Ellucian. Look, I will tell you, I'm like a kid in a candy store because I know the two of you are working day after day trying to understand a world that is ever changing in education, especially when we're injecting AI and we're injecting sort of new opportunities and solutions to challenges that are they're pivoting, they're evolving over time and quite rapidly. Laura, in doing some prep work on you, I loved your background and what you talked about and the move from Silicon Valley to Virginia. And sort of in essence, you talked about your family and the big
Yeah.
move to do that. Can you talk a little bit about your background and what was it in 2017 that said to you, this is the right off ramp for me, or on ramp, depending upon how you saw it based on what you were doing, that positioned you and Ellucian to where you are today?
Sure. Well, I started on the East Coast after I graduated and in Washington, and I was lured by Silicon Valley because I thought, hey, this is more of a meritocracy. I was in doing government affairs work in DC, and it seemed like a little bit of a stagnant place for me. I'm a creative person. I like taking risks, so I packed a duffel bag, moved out to Silicon Valley, and through the course of those years. I was at Cisco for many years with a great leader, John Chambers, who was my mentor. Then Microsoft, Oracle, a few others. I've been in everything but semiconductors. I've been in mainframes. So what inspired me to come back is, I learned for over 25 years the power of innovation, how that shaped my career, my journey, my life. And when the opportunity came up to run Ellucian, it was a bit of a homecoming for me. A fun fact is both of my parents worked in higher education. I had faculty and administration. So my dad was a professor, ran an art department at a university in Virginia, Virginia Commonwealth. My mother raised five kids. I'm an underachiever. She got her master's and PhD when she was 57. So it was a homecoming for me. Education had always been a big part of my life, working for someone like John Chambers, passionate about education. It was a thread that ran through my whole career, but it was never the key focal point. And in a time of transformation, it just made sense. Hard to take my kids out of their schools, but they've done really well since. And so that got me back in here to say, higher education is due for transformation. It's not just about cloud and SaaS and what we do with great companies like End-to-End, but it's powering up insights in new ways. So I'm just very passionate about that intersection. Never think you're going to become your parents, but higher education and ed tech coming together, I think it was just meant to be, quite frankly.
And so, Kieran, I would imagine you have some reactions to what Laura's talking about. Look, I've known you now for over a decade, and I've seen you continue to work and work and work, and I know how important partnerships have been throughout your process. Tell me about your origin story and what education meant to you growing up, and how that now parlays into the work that you're doing with End-to-End and Lightleap AI.
Well, first of all, I think having Laura here on the call I feel like it's a tremendous honor just to be able to hear her life story. My life story is probably a little bit more humble. Actually, started my work in the United States, working at University of Illinois. Came to my master's here to do, and the day I stepped on campus, I got a full tuition waiver for campus and teaching assistantship and research assistantship straight coming from India. And one thing I learned as part of that effort exercise is that, this is a country where you can just come in and on day one you get full tuition waiver with no questions asked, and forever changed me. And my immersion into IT was frankly, probably before Laura doesn't even know it. I'm sure she does with SCT Banner 2.0 when
I
University of
do know
Illinois
it.
was yeah, university was implementing it in 1998 and their IT department. So since then, I've been a big fan of SCT that became SunGuard and now Ellucian because this is a platform that helps students do everything from registering for courses, get their financial aid, and obviously become a champion of the college when we become alumni. So for us, Ellucian relationship is very important because we serve majority of our customers are Ellucian colleague, Power Campus, or Banner customers.
Well,
Now,
and
I'm going
Kieran is too humble because
to
your story is inspiring. Your story is about what Silicon Valley's made of, is anyone can do and be anything. It takes leadership, it takes knowledge, it takes rolling up your sleeves and doing a lot of hard work. And as a founder, you've done amazing things with your company, and that's what led to, I think, the strong partnership that we have too.
Yeah, I love that story. Especially, I just have so many images of Kieran and just the doggedness, right, of just continuing to pursue and pursue. So I think that that's a wonderful message. I want to take advantage, Laura, of your background, and I know that you're the chair of the Business Higher Education Forum, and that gives you what I would estimate as a unique vantage point. And I think that that's something that a lot of people are looking for to try to understand how to separate the noise from the signal. And I'm curious as to what major shifts that you're seeing now in higher education, and how can we better position ourselves to be prepared so that we can be proactive as opposed to reactive.
Well, and Business Higher Education Forum is a .org. It's a business association that brings business and higher education leaders together. And I'm excited that Kieran's going to join that. This is a very powerful time because it's really shaping the opportunities we have to transform workforce, to use government grants, to use innovative models to transform communities, understanding what works in different states and around the world. So we are a community that brings those two parties together. When historically you say that business and higher education, we don't tend to be on the same wavelength. We just, higher education expects that the students are graduating and lifelong learners are going to land in business, and we've found a delta. So this is a really important time for that organization. We're meeting in the next two days at Georgia Tech. But what's happening right now, it's not business as usual. We see massive transformation in workforce and higher education, and a good part of that's going to be AI. You see AI kind of taking out some jobs, replacing new ones. We're just at the beginning. If you look at what the World Economic Forum shows, 1.1 billion jobs are going to be transformed in the next decade. And 63% of us as employers say that those skills gaps are the biggest issues. So when I look at transformation and workforce, this is a massive tectonic plates changing all over the place around the world. And we have an opportunity as we develop a platform for students to have learning pathways, to understand the difference between when you need a degree, a credential, micro-credential, certification. So learning absolutely has to change. It's not a moment in time, it's lifelong. It has to be more personalized. You need to understand, how do different students learn, tied to outcomes. So everything that we're doing and building across our student systems are to connect the dots, to accelerate that. And using AI is just powering up. So we as employers, we as educators with higher education and beyond lifelong learning, it's the most important thing for us to drive home now, is to help accelerate the success of every learner, of everyone thinking about education, to bring them back for reskilling, because the world is going to change dramatically, not just in years, but in the next 6 to 12 months. We're seeing it already.
And I'm just curious because I think the layperson thinks about higher education, Laura, and they think there's a very long runway. We're on tradition. Things just, it's a time is a different element than it is sort of amongst our daily lives. But yet you're talking about the pace, right? And this transformation that is accelerated greatly, and talking about the implication on the workforce. What role do I think providers play in educating both sides of a public-private partnership so everyone understands that we're ready and prepared to work at the pace that's required?
Well, I think it's having dialogues that we're having right now to understand what that pace looks like, what employers really need versus like, hey, you get someone coming in that's not trained up on AI. Every resume that we're looking at now, some of them are, lots of them are screened by AI too, by the way. But foundationally, we all need to have AI skill sets. My entire company, every employee has foundational skill sets. And we're at a point for higher education to understand they need to do that too. Lots of the talk about artificial intelligence is about productivity. But if you're not focused on transformation, if you're not focused on not just the what, but why are we doing this? What are we transforming to? We're going to miss it. And higher education has a very important role to play, understanding that it's embracing all learners, not just traditional learners. Most people around the world don't have a degree, a 2 or a 4 year, right? So this is about, how do we learn in new ways to bring both parties together, business and higher education. And that's where things that, that end-to-end does in terms of integrating and having all that data gives us insights around what do learners need? How do we make sure that we engage them the right ways? If they're dropping out, how do we become more predictive? So data and content is probably one of the most powerful things for us to focus on right now to bring the sides together, for us to collaborate in new ways to truly transform higher education to benefit better outcomes for students and for the economies in which we live and work.
Kieran, I want to tag you into this conversation regarding sort of the origin of LightLeap AI and what you were hearing from customer organizations and universities and community college systems, and when AI sort of came into the calculus of the way in which you wanted to move the company forward.
Yeah, so the origin of Lightleap AI was really based on my own foundation. When I started, I talked about 1998. I worked working with the University of Illinois, and after that, about 12 years, I implemented banner system at many campuses. And during that process, we realized that we need to integrate with parking system, housing system, ID card system, and that led me to launch end-to-end 15 years ago. And that was our focus was integration services, and we called it connect anything to anything. In 2016, we moved a lot of those adapters or connectors into API model, which is Illuminate, which is an integration platform as a service that now serves over 500 colleges worldwide. However, Lightleap was a unique opportunity where we realized that we have this asset which allows us to connect to different databases, ERPs, and CRM systems, but we needed to convert this data into actionable intelligence. Just like Laura is describing, how do I make sure that instead of just showing the list of courses available, show the courses that a student is most suited to succeed to help them with their career progression? And how do I make sure that instead of just showing some information related to their coursework or registration or billing or financial aid, make it so customizable and personalized so that students get the information they need, not only to complete the journey or complete the task, but also become better students, better and potential employees, and hopefully better entrepreneurs as well. So AI is this unique opportunity where for the first time in human experience, we can connect World Wide Web, student information system, learning management system, financial aid system, and make it all plugged together using Lightleap AI to give an information specifically a student. And I think that's why, like Laura is talking about, insights is what we are trying to move from. We are moving from data to information to insights, but really, just like Laura said, actionable insights. What
Yeah.
outcomes are we helping students achieve? And AI is specifically designed to do that. Laura, do you agree?
No, I more than agree. And Kieran, what you do is really around the integration of everything, all the data, all the insights, so that we can act on it, but not just act on it, but with AI, we can become predictive, not just for an institution, not just for faculty or administration, but specific to student outcomes and better success. Students of all ages, lifelong learners. So it's not just the pathway that you're on, but it's the pathway you could be on. And what's important in this changing nature of jobs when we look at skills to jobs, that's one of the innovations that we built that Kieran will be familiar with is Ellucian Journey. Journey uses AI. It's our most powerful innovation out of our innovation hub that uses AI to go across all the course curriculum, builds a skills ontology, illuminates the pathway for a student who may say, I'm going to be an anthropology major, but what are the jobs that I'm going to get when I graduate? Understanding what courses to take to amplify that degree and the skill sets that are very precise. We can do that for traditional learners, but more importantly, right now is reskilling the workforce. That's changing so quickly. We see federal workers near where I am being displaced. How do we reskill veterans, government workers, others who are mid-career who haven't thought about higher education in decades? That's very powerful at this time because we see the big shift in what is going to be required for the future, getting prepared, and everyone can participate. So, integration of everything, having that data, being specific around the actions, leading to outcomes, and then more predictive. that's where AI is going to take us. And that's where AI, if you're a game changer in higher education, you're already down that path. You're first of all moving to SaaS and looking at all the integrations and getting your data house in order to get there.
And Laura, I would tell me if I'm far afield on this, but I would think that one of the major elements that both you and Kieran have to, I guess, tackle would be cultural resistance to the change. And I'm curious as to the advice that you might give higher ed leaders that are looking to embark on the transformation, but yet there are a lot of, I guess, roadblocks in front of them that they're trying to navigate and also provide a value proposition that is concurrent with what's needing to be done while also, I guess, honoring the value props of yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'll start early because I knew when it came to Ellucian that things had to change. That was what my private equity owner said at the time. We need to change. And I'll tell you, when I got there and I said, cloud first, people first, customer first, when it came to cloud, I had leaders deep in my product organization, not my head of product today, who was deep in the organization and became my number one product leader, Mike Wolf. But I had leaders saying, why cloud? Why now? Well, I saw the world changing through what we did at Microsoft and Oracle and the move to cloud. There was then just single digits according to Andy Jassy of the world's workflow. This was 10 years that were in cloud, but it's going to. It's not if, but when. But in any transformation, whether it's cloud or anything else, you have to ask, what are we changing? Why are we changing? And what is it and how are we going to do it? And then for employees, when you get resistance, it's really fear. What is it going to mean for me? You got to drive it down to what is it going to mean for me and what are the expectations of how I work today and what I address in the future. So addressing cultural resistance early, having open conversations, making sure you have education, you think about change management. As many of the institutions we serve, and hundreds have already moved to SaaS, we have over 2,000 that have something in SaaS. The most important thing is to make sure that you have the change management and drill it down to the individual. What is it going to mean for teams, but you as someone who can contribute to the change? And that's where you change resistance to excitement. It doesn't happen overnight, but you have to be intentional. So for higher education, number one, they have to get moving. They have to understand what they're changing and why, and what does it mean for the traditional roles across higher education, and what are the outcomes and value that people can get excited about? Because no one wants to do a lot of work and not say, is this going to be better? How does AI make us more human in this transformation as higher education is being forced to change? And actually, I see a lot of positive momentum out there too.
And one thing that I always look for, Laura, is when people's questions change over time. I always see that that's an indicator that we're sort of building that knowledge base. And I'm curious, when you've been talking to higher ed leaders that are customers of Ellucian and those that may are not, but you know them professionally, have you noticed that there's a change, there's a growth to the questions that they're asking you, whether it's about capabilities and or forecasts that you are either making or they'd like you to make?
Yeah, and the big transformation for us is certainly higher education must move from on-prem to software as a service. That's where data comes alive. In talking with one institution in California who talked about, the value of AI and had a squishy brain to showcase what that meant. The brain's going to be this golden thing and all the data is going to come together. I said, you cannot do that when you're on-prem. You have to be in SaaS to bring that alive. So I think they're realizing it. They're not asking why. Why do we have to this transformation? It's not just about going to SaaS, but it's about using data, powering up data, building, having all those integrations come to life from the past to the future. They're not asking why. They're asking when and how quickly. And a lot of what I see in higher education is AI is another forcing function, a wave of how everyone in the world has to adapt. And I see a lot of bright spots from those conversations. It's happening with boards of trustees and leaders. It's the number one conversation that I have with presidents and chancellors. They get it. Their students now are AI natives. They
Right.
have to be ahead of the game if they're going to be best in class moving forward.
Kieran, have you seen
Yeah.
that? I know that I've had the privilege of interviewing and talking to a number of folks that are working with end-to-end and Lightleap over the last 10 days. And what I gather from them and sort of the energy they're giving is that there's this real proactivity about them and the energy, right? It does not
Right.
feel as if it was 5 years ago speaking to a leader in education where status quo. That's not a bad thing, right? To maintain some level of calm. I gathered that they were almost like explorers and they were excited about it. It was not scary to them. Am I reading that correctly in the partners that you're working with?
Yeah, definitely. I see that with chancellors and presidents in colleges. I mean, just like Laura can probably attest to this. Just a couple of years ago, we were selling more to CIOs and CTOs, but AI is now a topic for chancellors, presidents, and vice presidents and vice chancellors that never made technical decisions because now they see that it can be the answer or it is the answer for moving their institution forward. But actually, it goes beyond that. I almost feel like um, there is some resistance to AI, just like Laura is describing. But instead of people thinking about what will AI do to them, the leaders are or most people should think about what do you want AI to do for you. So the big difference is, if you're thinking of you working at an automobile industry in Ford 1950, and if you're worried that, oh, all this assembly plant is going to come in and take over all our jobs, that's going to happen anyway. But what they did not realize is that it creates a era of innovation where we can have millions of more cars on the road, and that will create its own economy itself. So what Laura is recommending is exactly right. We need to think about how AI can take their institution forward, how AI can accelerate their students' journey, how AI can increase the enrollment itself. And one of the great example that Laura talked about with respect to SaaS is absolutely critical because one of the biggest issues AI has is if your data is stuck in a cabinet somewhere or a closet somewhere or in other words on premise somewhere where you're running your own databases or stuff like that. But with SaaS journey that Ellucian is running through, this allows us to make sure that we can connect to Ellucian platform or any other platform using APIs like Ethos, Business Process APIs, or Insight and others. And those APIs will allow us to achieve whatever outcomes they want, whether it is eliminating fraud, which is something I'm pretty sure we are super excited to talk about, or also allowing us to achieve outcomes like reducing dropout rates, increasing resource efficiencies, and others. But it requires institutions to start thinking about the infrastructure is no longer a technology problem, but really a strategic solution for moving them from, we'll call it 1900s to 2020s.
I don't
Laura,
want
do
to
you
feel like
agree?
we're stuck in the 1900s, but definitely, definitely, Kieran, and we see, there are leaders out there, but moving from, kind of heavy, feeling like it's the railroad approach to fully autonomous, as we see vehicles moving autonomous. So whether it's registration, financial aid, degree planning, automating that, and the big thing about AI is like, oh, it's going to replace humans. No, it's going to amplify and support what we do and make us more human. I don't know of one role across higher education that people don't say we should spend more human time together, more time face to face with students, even though we know lots of students, including my college age kids, don't necessarily want to get career advice from someone decades older. They want it on their phone. So the experiences are going to be new and AI will power that. The one thing though I would say that higher education needs to do, like most of us, is make sure that you get your data in order. I think that's something that end-to-end helps with. If you don't know how your data is organized, clean data, you won't be able to embrace AI the right ways. It's like garbage in, garbage out. So getting your data house in order is really important as you start this journey. That's one of the fundamentals. Having a governance, having a construct of how you manage AI, how you measure the impact of the investments that you make, what applications have AI. There's also a lot of concern about the policy and regulatory issues because now, unfortunately, we're going to see AI policies and regulations balkanized across states. Texas is a first mover, et cetera. So getting clarity on the policy and regulations, the data issues are very important from privacy and use cases. Those are critical to get right as we move forward for FERPA and other reasons here in the United States.
And I'll let you out of here on this, Laura. I'm
Yeah.
curious as to the I'll use the quantum leap here, pun intended here, that you see in the future. But I'd love to get your thoughts on the direct collaboration that you have with End-to-End and Lightleap AI on the fraud elimination, because we're just seeing, even in the popular press, I'm seeing more and more conversations about that. Could you speak to that and its role in serving as a quantum leap forward in how we want to help to support our colleges and universities across the country?
Well, first of all, I think of quantum leap in higher ed is when knowledge meets momentum. We have the momentum. We need more knowledge. We need more insights around how we use these new tools like AI. AI is dangerous in some ways when you think about how is that going to be used in negative ways, pushing the boundaries of cybersecurity and hacking. But AI will be more of a benefit to conquer those issues as well. AI, we have solutions that are built into our student capabilities that will support detection of fraud, including capabilities like Journey. And as we look to the future to power up the workforce with short-term Pell coming into play here in the United States, we need to use those AI capabilities to support students getting resources to reskill themselves, and also making sure that we use capabilities to detect fraud, to protect the resources. I think whether it's at a state or federal level, there's more that we can do using those tools to ferret out fraud. And those are very key issues across the country, in particular in California. Those are things that we talk about with the work that we're doing with the community college system, their Common Cloud Data project that is going to power up a lot of student success moving forward.
Well, Laura, Kieran, I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure we could have continued the conversation for quite some time, but I want to allow you guys to do the work that's making a difference. And I love that knowledge meets momentum. Thanks so much, Laura and Kieran.
Thank you. And
Thank,
thanks to Kieran. And we're just so proud of the partnership and all that you do. Let's go and let's move faster together.
thanks, Laura. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.